Good evening, audience. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. This is Tuesday Night Live with your latest rugby news. And the headline of the show is British and Irish Lions tour to be called off. Big question mark. We're going to be talking about the British and Irish Lions team that's been announced for this weekend. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Currie Cup this weekend, the match tomorrow, the S20 series, as well as a couple of updates from the Springbok camp, as well as from the British and Irish Lions camp itself. So, yeah, without any further ado, please do settle in, smash like on the video. Let me know what you think is going to happen this weekend. It is the British and Irish Lions versus Japan. Should be a very interesting game, and Gatlin has officially announced his first match day 23, and it's a very big omission. And the big thing is no English players in the starting lineup. So yeah, I mean, without any further ado, I thought we'd start with sort of Currie Cup, and I think that after we've seen what this weekend and the fact that a lot of teams have been playing sort of weekend sides, it's quite interesting that tomorrow we will see the Lions taking on the Western Province at Ellis Park. So the Western Province obviously didn't even bother going back down to the Cape. I mean, they were in Pretoria on Saturday, and now they are in Johannesburg for tomorrow. So before we get to the British and Irish Lions, so a quick Currie Cup update. What's quite interesting, and the reason I'm mentioning it first is because, you know, with the tour being a down stuff like that, I think it puts into perspective a lot of what's going on behind the scenes when you look at the Lions, that is the Xerox Lions, Golden Lions team for tomorrow. So the Lions team for tomorrow, they've announced two changes to the starting lineup from this weekend and two new additions to the bench with Morne van den Berg and Jakob Asaki. What's quite interesting, however, though, for the Xerox Lions is the fact that a lot of players have not been included and are scheduled to apparently make their return against the Lions, which in theory will be on the 3rd of July. So I don't know if that's a case of them trying to sort of get away with injuries, whether all these players are in fact currently injured. But no MJ Pulser, no Jakob Kriel, no Burger Odendaal, no Courtney Skosan, no Stian Pienaar, no Asenat in Clavicania, no Yanni Du Plessis, no, who else was missing? No, Divan Rousseau. All these players who are coming back from injury, or we don't. It's a bit weird because when you look at the injury update, they didn't really mention them as part of the injury list, but all sort of apparently supposed to be coming back on the 3rd of July for the British and Irish Lions. Now, the reason that tomorrow is quite significant is that tomorrow will be the last game that the Lions will play before the British and Irish Lions, and will not be playing in the Currie Cup this weekend, because tomorrow, after the game, I mean, I'm assuming it's on Thursday, they will be going into a bio bubble for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, forward to a week. So it's about 10 days that they're going to be going into this bio bubble in preparation for the British and Irish Lions series. It's the first game of the series, which will be the 3rd of July. The Sharks will be playing on the 7th of July, and so they'll be going into a bio bubble in a couple of days' time. And pretty much and each team is basically going to be doing a similar thing. Basically, as they play their last Currie Cup game, you know, they go spend the evening with their family, and then you go into this bio bubble. You'll be having lots of tests and stuff like that ahead of the tour. For the Western Province tomorrow, also a couple of new faces in, and a new sort of loose trio in the likes of Evan Ruiz shifting to the number 7 jersey, Joano Augustus back at number 8, Gardner Masimla starting tomorrow at scrum half. Who else are the new changes? I recognize Hooker on the back. Oh, and Tim Swiel starting at fly half tomorrow for the Western Province. So tomorrow's game should be quite interesting. It's a Western Province side who I think need to have improved from their performance on Saturday, where they got a bonus point victory against the Bulls, so they're not really going to complain, but I think we can all agree it wasn't particularly impressive. I think that we were all hoping for probably a little bit more from that Western Province side, and definitely think that they probably should have done a better job, and certainly shouldn't have conceded a bonus point against what was largely a club and semi-pro side. So they'll be looking at the Lions tomorrow and licking their lips, really, I think, because after the Lions had put in that abysmal performance on Friday night against the Pumas, I think the Lions look very, very beatable, unfortunately, and I think that the changes that they made are not going to suddenly turn them into world beaters. So I think tomorrow, you know, my heart says the Lions, but my head says the Western Province are definitely the favourites going into that clash. It'll be quite nice to have some midweek rugby. We will be live for the clash at 7 o'clock. We will also be live tomorrow at 3 o'clock for the SA Under-20 versus Argentina. The game of the series, really, before we get into the semi-finals and quarterfinals, semi-finals and final. We saw SA Under-20s beat Uruguay on Friday. It started quite slowly, but tomorrow, you know, George Cornell starts. The regular captain, Jordan Hendricks, is going to start tomorrow. So the bit of the SA Under-20 stars will be seen tomorrow. So it should be quite an interesting match. And against Argentina, who completely decimated Georgia on Friday as well. So it should be a really, really nice game. So if you're a big rugby fan, make sure you come and hang out. It's a really cool game to watch. Check the sort of the next generation and see what's happening there. But good ZS says, which team do you think stands a chance in beating the Lions? Well, it's quite interesting because I think we all probably would have sat there and said the Bulls stand the best chance of beating the Lions. They've been the least affected, apart from the Lions, in terms of the amount of Springboks that they've lost. They've only lost Malcolm Assad and Morné Steyn, Dwayne Vermeulen, and Trevor Nyakane. So they've got the bulk of their squad. But I must admit, I think we after seeing that Saturday, whilst I said on Sunday we mustn't take Saturday's game to heart too much. I definitely think that suddenly throws in a doubt whether they can do a job up against the British and Irish Lions. A lot of it, I think, will depend on injuries and if they can get a couple of injuries back and stuff like that. But, I mean, for example, things like, is Albert Lowe going to be fit? Is Lizo Gqoboka going to be fit to start? Is Marcel Coetzee still going to be there? But he might be drafted into the Springbok squad, sort of what's going to happen there. But I think, in theory, the Bulls offer the best chance at beating the Lions. They've got players of the highest caliber. In your Cornel Hendricks, your Marcel Coetzee, your Lizo Gqobokas, Ruan Okia, Nizam Carr. I think Johan Grobbelaar is a very good player. Shamina Jacobs, but Josh Tumway is in very good form. But yeah, I think obviously Saturday's result is going to sort of put a bit of damper on those preparations and stuff like that. Jack Balsero, will South Africa under 20 be on YouTube? Not to my knowledge. It's only on Supersport that they're going to be streaming it, but we will be live for it, so we'll be covering and stuff like that. But let's talk about the British and Irish Lions tour. That is the header of the video. And look, let me allay your fears right now. There's been no confirmation or no official talks that the tour will be off, but there are a lot of murmurings about how the tour is going to be able to go on, with Cyril Ramaphosa expected to address the nation in the next day or two regarding Gauteng and the rising cases. If you look at the British and Irish Lions series, all but 3 games across the entire 8-match series are based in Gauteng. So there's suddenly quite a few rumors, quite a few murmurings going around saying, will we be able to have this tour? Will this tour be able to go ahead with the rising infections? Will we be able to contain, our local teams? Will we be able to have the British and Irish Lions? Will we be able to contain, the bio bubbles? Is it going to be able to go ahead? And I think it is a very valid sort of concern, because in Gauteng we are seeing rocketing cases everywhere. And you've got to think that it's more than just the players. It's, can we make sure that the hotel staff are going to be okay? Can we make sure that all the officials and all the administrators and stuff like that involved in the tour are going to be okay? I mean, just on Sunday there was an article talking about the fact that they've made a request for 10,000 fans, and yet there are currently talks going to happen tomorrow in the National Command Center, in the National COVID Command Center, about potentially moving Gauteng up to level 5. And I mean, level 5 was basically nothing. You do not leave your home unless you are going to the shops type thing. So that's why there's a bit of a growing concern about whether this tour is going to be able to happen and whether we're going to be able to get it done. And I think that there are rightfully quite a lot of questions being raised at the moment as to what we're going to be able to do. But if we look at the itinerary, I think that the itinerary leads for quite a safe environment if they do it correctly. The British and Irish Lions will fly out, I'm sure, on Sunday. They will play against Japan on Saturday, and I'm sure they will fly out on Sunday. Given what we saw was going to happen when Cricket Australia was supposed to tour, I'm pretty sure, first of all, they'll obviously be tested before they come. They've also all been vaccinated, as have not only the Springboks, but apparently Jake White confirmed that a lot of the local players have all been vaccinated under the Sisonke protocol. Which I actually didn't know that. He mentioned in the press conference the other day, because they're talking about the fact that will they be vaccinated going to Italy. But apparently a lot of them have been vaccinated under the Sisonke protocol, which was the initial rollout in South Africa where all the health workers and essential workers and frontline workers were all vaccinated. So they will arrive, I imagine, sort of Sunday, Monday, and will, in theory, should be able to even skip the queues. Basically, what I think will happen is it's similar to what was supposed to happen with Australia Cricket. They will have their own sort of, pretty much their own sort of entry at the airport and with customs and stuff like that, where they'll be able to pretty much go from the plane straight through customs onto a bus, straight to a hotel, which will be done with training facilities nearby. And the idea is that it's going to be a complete bubble where, the bus drivers, the staff, the trainers, pretty much everybody involved in that sort of leg will all be in quarantine. They will all be isolated. They will all be in this bio bubble together where, the British and Irish Lions will go from there, to training and stuff like that and back. I think, if this was a couple of months ago, I think they'd be looking at sort of how they can do more sort of team building and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be quite a much more sort of stricter environment given the fact that South Africa's currently going through the third wave. So in theory, there will be a bio bubble completely created in Johannesburg from the airport to there, and that will be in place for the Lions versus the Lions, which is on the 3rd of July. The Sharks versus the Lions, which is also at Elan Park on the 7th of July, and the Bulls versus the Lions, which is the 10th of July. So it's a week. That then shifts to Cape Town. Thankfully, Cape Town at the moment is doing a lot better with Gauteng in terms of the rate of infections and stuff like that. And they'll be based in Cape Town for the South Africa A game on the 14th of July, the Stormers game on the 17th of July, as well as the first test on the 24th of July. They will then, from there, make the switch back to Johannesburg at the FNB Stadium for the last two tests, which will be on the 31st of July and the 7th of August. The Springboks are also going to be based in Johannesburg for the 3rd and the 7th, those sort of weekends, because we will be playing against Georgia on the 2nd and on the 9th at Johannesburg at Ayers Park and Loftus. So the Springboks will also be based in Johannesburg in theory. So I think the reason that there's probably less reason to concern is the fact that they will be going into a bio bubble, that they've got quite a strict protocol surrounding how players come into it, how players are isolating, how the teams are isolating and stuff like that. And I think that what we've seen in South Africa, and touch wood we continue, is that what we saw in the South Africa versus Sri Lanka cricket series in December and January is that in the middle of the second wave, we managed to have a complete series happen without there were no vaccines or anything like that, and yet we still managed to have no outbreaks, no positive infections, no games compromised, no team selections compromised. Sri Lanka arrived, had the series, and they left, and there were no issues. Pakistan women came, they arrived, they played against South African cricket women, there's no issues, they left, and Pakistan came here. So we are quite adept now at actually hosting these events and being able to host these events safely. Even if you look at the Rainbow Cup and you look at now, we've had very few players. If we cast back our minds to sort of September, October, January, February, there were quite a few players who suddenly had to isolate and stuff like that. And the only time we've seen that was with the Lions camp 2 weeks ago. But now, obviously, the Lions have been taking a lot of precautions, and as I said, even sort of keeping a certain amount of players back in preparation for this bio bubble. So I don't think that we're going to see this tour being cancelled. I think that there's been too much being put in, and I think it's too late. The financial ramifications would cripple SA Rugby. We can't afford for this tour not to happen. The British and Irish Lions cannot afford for this tour not to happen. The sponsors cannot afford for this tour to happen. It pretty much has to go ahead. And what will be interesting, though, and what becomes a problem is the scheduling. I mean, for example, the curfew currently sits at 10 o'clock in South Africa. If Gauteng goes into a level 5, do we have to look at moving the venues, or can we get a special dispensation from the government to allow the games to continue to happen at 7 o'clock? Because if you're moving regulations in a Gauteng, the curfew shifts down to like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock. How are you going to have a 7 o'clock game? So that's, I think, probably the logistics that are going to have to be sorted out relatively quickly. And I'm sure that SARB are in constant dialogue with the National COVID Command Center, and they'll be very aware of what the sort of decisions are. And what we saw, for example, in the French Open recently is that they actually received special permission on the night from the French government to allow the match between, I think it was Djokovic and Nadal, to continue over curfew. They actually extended it specifically for that event. So I think if they are in a case where the curfew might have to be brought forward or reduced to earlier, hopefully they'll be in a situation where we can have a special dispensation specifically for these events. Because unfortunately, we cannot have a midweek game starting at 5 o'clock. It's not going to work. It's not going to work for the UK or it's not going to work for here. You need these games to be at times when people can tune in for the broadcasting. That's where the bulk of the money comes from. So you cannot have a test match on a Friday night for the Springboks starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It just won't work. It's just not feasible. It's a no-go. So I don't think we need to worry yet. I think that the tour has to go ahead. I think it's far too late, and I think there are enough protocols being put in place. I do think we might potentially see a change in scheduling, whether it's location or whether it's time. I think that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. Sean Farrell says, I'm thinking, why not do the games in Cape Town and not do Johannesburg? I think that'll be on the cards. I think that SA Rugby will do everything in their power to make sure that won't be the case, because the only home ground advantage that we can gain with our crowds is the high fault. That altitude is the only sort of advantage that we can, impose on the Lions apart from crowds. It's being able to play at altitude. I mean, the Lions are apparently doing lots of altitude training and stuff like that in preparation, but you would never be as prepared at altitude as the Springboks. That's why the Springboks are currently based at Bloemfontein. It's something a little bit out the way where they can do their own thing, but it's still not quite sort of sea level. They're not going to have a training camp in PE where they're at sea level. They want to trade up here. Lots of Bulls players, a couple of Lions players, who play up here, and that's where a sort of a major part of the Springbok strength comes in when you have a host and when you have a home game. That's why when you see like all the big New Zealand games, it always happens at Ellis Park. They go and say, right, where's the best place for us to play rugby, and that's always been Ellis Park. Sort of Fortress Ellis, because it's at altitude, it's got a big crowd, it's got a lot of sort of historical significance, and it's a difficult place for other sides to come and beat the Springboks. So I think that they'll try and avoid the alternative going to Cape Town for all those matches to their last dying breath. It is such an unattractive option, I think, for SA Rugby that they'll avoid that. Crossy says, I think too much money has been put into this tour. I don't see it being cancelled. Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. It's so much has been put into place. So much is now riding on it going ahead. I think in hindsight, they'll probably look at it and think we should have had it in the UK. But the UK government wouldn't underwrite it. They wouldn't underwrite it for insurance purposes and stuff like that in case it wouldn't go through. But what you can say now is there's going to be a crowd at Murrayfield. There's going to be a crowd of 60,000 people at Wembley for the Euro semi-finals and finals. So that could have been the Lions tour, but at the end of the day, it's not a Lions tour if they're not touring, is it? A one-off test against Japan and Murrayfield is one thing, but for them to try and expect the Springboks to fly up and have it, it does go against everything that is the tour. So I think that there's nothing from SA Rugby in terms of should there be a bit of doubt and are they worried. It's all sort of murmuring in and around the sort of the journalists, the media, and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that we'll get sort of more clarity in the next couple of days when Cyril Ramaphosa does come and address us, and we get sort of more certainty over what's going to happen with regarding to regulations in Gauteng or across the country. I think it's very tough. I think even in Gauteng, I think it'll be very tough to go to level 5. We can't afford it. The economy can't afford to go to level 5. So I'd be very surprised I don't know how, you might see sort of a liquor ban and that kind of thing creeping in, but I don't think we're going to have too many major issues which would really sort of cripple the tour itself. At the end of the day, SA Rugby are thankfully one of the better run institutions in South Africa. I think, if this was cricket, South Africa would be a bit worried. If you look at South African soccer at the moment, there's a huge issues there. But thankfully, I think SA Rugby, and I think this tour is bringing in so much money, especially with Supersport. There's so much money riding it. I think that it has been planned very, very thoroughly. And hopefully, as a result of that, they've got all the precautions in place. They've got every single measure, and that they're aiming for a way to trying to sort this out and trying to make sure it goes ahead as planned, because we cannot afford not to. At this stage, as I said, plan for it to happen. I don't see it being called off. There are just a couple of rumors going around it, so probably discuss that a little bit here. But as I said, I think I would say it's 95% still not an issue. It's whether there are new regulations that come in which could potentially make it an issue. But let's not count our chickens before they hatch. At this stage, no issues to thing. And the problem is, I think one of the reasons that we might not see Joburg or Gauteng going to level 5 is that it's kind of too late. Apparently, according to these experts who are often very wrong, they reckon that it's in 2 weeks' time it'll reach the peak in Gauteng, and then we'll start sort of subsiding. which means that hopefully by the time you get to the second sort of leg of the tour towards the 24th of July, the case will be on the slide again. Guru says at the moment Cape Town is safest bet. Joburg should have been to level 5 long ago. When PE and Garden Route were hotspots, they were closed. Yeah, I think the problem is that just it's difficult to close the center of the economy, and that's the problem now. We can't afford to go into the same restrictions as last year. In many ways, because we went to those restrictions last year, with so many issues going along, we can't afford to close restaurants, close pubs, close shops, close all these things indefinitely. Especially in Johannesburg, which is the mining part of the economy. So yeah, I don't know what the regulations are going to be, but I think that I'm hoping that none of them should impact on the tour itself. At the end of the day, it's about making sure that they can train and they can go to the stadium. So whether that means that everybody has to carry a special pass and you get issued a little special pass to be involved in the tour, and that's how it has to happen, that's how it has to happen. But I think that they've got enough dialogue and they've got enough support from the Department of Sport and Recreation that they will be able to sort out all those sort of issues that are going to manifest over the couple of weeks. But yeah, so I think that we'll move away from that. I think that we can sort of be safely say that we should be, that in a week's time, for example, we're going to be talking about the Lions versus the Lions, and that we're going to be having fan forums, and we're going to be really going into the tour. So let's hope that this is sort of the last couple of days of a bit of uncertainty, and that by the weekend, for example, we are fully in on getting ready and preparing to make sure that we just enjoy the tour. Our preview of what to expect from the channel will be out on Monday. We were going to put it out this week, but we wanted to try and confirm a few things, try and sort out a couple of logistical issues and a couple of technical issues. So we will have our preview up for what to expect of the tour next week, Monday. Some sneak peek is that it's going to be fan forums, so it's not just going to be me. You're going to see a lot more faces on the channel. We're going to see rating shows. We're going to be able to rate the players. Obviously, the previews, reviews, lots of live stuff, lots of very interactive stuff. Basically, we want to try and make this tour as enjoyable as possible outside those 80 minutes. We live for the 80 minutes, but it's 8 sets of 80. After that, you just want to try and sort of be able to replicate what would happen if you would be able to go on tour, if we were going to, if you'll be able to travel. The idea was for us to be able to take you along with us and go to the stadiums and be in the stadium, stuff like that, but that's not going to be able to happen. So instead, we're going to try and make sure that we can create us within the community. We've got a really nice community growing and stuff like that. We're going to try and create a little own sort of mini tour on the channel itself. Sean Farrell says a lot of URC players in the Lions team to face Japan. Yeah, we're going to go through that in a minute. Heracles says, where can we in the under 21 games? My English has left me. I'm going to try and add the SA Under 20 highlights to our website, which is favouritesports.net. I'll make sure I'll add the Uruguay ones to the highlights shortly after this, and I'll try and make sure that the highlights are up for tomorrow. Unfortunately, it's only being shown on SuperSport, so if you don't have DSTV now or DSTV itself, you can't watch the SA Under 20 games. But we will be live and we'll be doing a watch along for it tomorrow. So if you can't watch it, then come and hang out for that. And if you can watch it, come out and hang. But anyway. Kenny Coonan says, good evening. Play the games in areas least affected by COVID and limit the number of fans coming. I don't think we're going to have any fans at all as it stands. I don't see SA Rugby giving that the go ahead. Especially, it's just too soon. I mean, it's next weekend. Literally, it's what, sort of 11 days tomorrow. I mean, they haven't sold tickets. They haven't announced it. They haven't announced the process. There would have to be a lot of stuff being put in place before, stuff like that. I mean, I know that they've got a system. They've got like a whole sort of system in place for like scanning and stuff like that. I think it's a phone app basically. So they've got that in place, where they were busy putting that in place in the hopes that they would have fans. But I don't see how they can roll that out in 11 days in front of the Lions. So maybe they're targeting the 3 tests on the 24th of July, 24th, 31st, and 7th. Maybe that's the plan, to try and target those 3 tests. But I don't see us having fans in that first game. And or that sort of that first leg in Johannesburg at least. Not optimistic about the Irish presence in the first test. If 6 of them are playing versus Japan, they'll be just resting those who are likely to start. Well, I think the issue is that the English players have only just joined up with the squad. So we're going to go through the squad now. We'll go through the team for this weekend. But yeah, I think I get what you're saying in terms of if this is, is this a bit of a fringe squad? It's a very good team, to be fair. So let's have a look at the Lions team that's been announced for this weekend. Right, well, there it is. So we've got Rory something here. I just want to pull out. I had an article which had all the how many of each nation were there, so I don't have to sit here and count. One person is easy to count. We've got one South African in there. Where is it? Let me know what you think of this team, by the way, before we sort of go through and discuss it. What change would you make? What do you chuffed to see? What don't you like about the team? What do you reckon about it so far? I'm also interested, as Warren Gatlin, what do you sort of do in terms of your game plan for this weekend? Because I mean, I think it doesn't get much more sort of polar opposite than playing this Japan in preparation for playing Springboks in the South African tour. I mean, you're going to play Japan, which is a bunch of very much smaller, much quicker, probably much more skillful players compared to coming to South Africa, where you have much bigger opponents, much bigger packs, and the likes. Right, so here we go. So we've got Rory Sutherland, Ken Owens, and Xander Ferguson. So, two Scots flanking a Welshman. And then we've got Ian Henderson and Alan Jones. I'm glad to see Ian Henderson there. I was very impressed with him in the Six Nations. So I think that's quite a nice lock combination. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't become the lock combination itself. Tadek Byrne, Hamish Watson, and Jack Conan is the loose trio. I don't think I'm surprised. I'm a little bit surprised by Jack Conan at the back of the scrum. I thought that Falatau probably would have had the run in him, but I'm interested to see how he goes. Very, very tough to see Hamish Watson there. I think he's brilliant, and I think that if you look at that loose trio, I could very well see Falatau coming into that number 8 position, maybe Tadek Byrne going into the locks, and like somebody like Courtney Laws coming into that into the loose trio there. So I'm interested to see sort of how they line up in the first test. But I think that I don't think it's particularly. You obviously got to factor all the English players in. If we go into the backline now, Conor Murray, I think he will be the starting scrum half, and I think Dan Biggar will be the starting fly half. At least at the moment. Obviously, some of it will depend on form and stuff like that. But those two players have been in eyes to us before, so they know what's going on there. Juan van der Merwe and Josh Adams are the two wings. I would have liked to have seen Rhys Sammet. I'm a massive Rhys Sammet fan, so I would have liked to have seen him playing there. But what I think is interesting is combinations. If we're looking at the fact that the two props are two Scottish props, we're looking at the two centres, in Henshaw and Bondi Aki, the two Irish centres. So I think there's a lot to be said with the idea of combinations. Liam Williams, Josh Adams. As I said, if they're going to lose Rhys Sammet, it could have got a whole Welsh back three. And I think that combinations are always quite interesting because when you have teams like this, the biggest challenge when it comes to touring sides and invitational sides is how can you get these players to gel in a short space of time. And a lot of the issue and a workaround for that is to play players who play together, and that's why I think you can sometimes see like front rowers together. Often you'll see a lock and the hooker being the same person, so they can show the lineouts work. So we've got Ken Owens and Alan Jones, for example, so that's a nice combination there for the lineouts. But yeah, I mean it's not a bad team at all. And then off the bench you got Jamie George, Wyn Jones. I think Wyn Jones will be the starting prop, and Tadek Furlong. I think will also potentially be starting in the first test. Got Courtney Laws, Telepo Falatau, Ali Price, Owen Farrell, and Anthony Watson. Owen Farrell and Anthony Watson are quite interesting, and Jamie George, they managed to get in there because they only arrived this weekend. As I said, there's no English players in that starting lineup because they haven't been around. So just the 4 English players and Courtney Laws who are on that bench there. Sean Farrell says, I thought Hogg would have started, but I think he's resting him for the test games. Yeah, I think he's a sure starter. Why does the squad contain more English than the other nations after they capped Six Nations? Gatlin's gone mad. Itoje is now a penalty conceding machine. I think it's quite interesting that Itoje didn't make the side, actually, because I think that he's somebody who would probably benefit from playing. So I do wonder if him not making the side might actually mean that maybe he's a little bit further down than we thought. I bet Farrell will forget how to use his arms again. The South Africans, we all know how much we love him. Sean Farrell says he could use Louis Van for the Lions versus Lions game. Probably a popular opinion. I don't think Louis Van is ready for what will be a very tough 3 tests because he hasn't been tested yet at this level. I suppose the problem is that he's still very new to it. But but it's. I mean, people also have lots of concerns over Duran van der Merwe and whether either of those two will start and play the test. You've got much safer options than your likes of Anthony Watson and Josh Adams and Liam Williams and Stuart Hogg and stuff like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if especially for that first test they do go with the more sort of senior players. It's one of those things where it's really nice, and it can happen where you suddenly bloody youngster and say, Louis Zammit suddenly goes in and starts the first test and has an absolute blinder, and he becomes one of those sort of iconic moments where he had a brilliant tour and stuff like that. But unfortunately, you can also have a similar situation where they come in and they're not ready yet, and suddenly you test down, and maybe you're thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have played them and stuff like that. But let's look at players who are not going to be involved this weekend. So no Chris Harris, which I'm quite upset about. I really like Chris Harris. I think he's a very, very good centre. I think he reads the game very well. No Gareth Davies. So those are the two. So no Louis Zammit, no Chris Harris, no Gareth Davies, and no. Where am I? Yes, is that it? Hey, for the backs, and then the forwards. Hang on, this was just the squad. No, this is the wrong squad. No, this is our squad. This isn't the full squad. I mean, I'm having an absolute disaster. Obviously, no Carl Sinclair as well. Where is the 46-man squad? There we go. Right, so John and saying, do you think Japan can possibly beat the Lions? Probably not. I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of good players. Yeah, I also think Japan is not quite the Japan that we kind of got used to. I think that Japan on their day can do quite well, but I do think that they've got their limits. So I'm expecting a Lions victory. Kenny Coonan say I would have started Johnny May and either Adams/Watson. Yeah. The biggest problem with that is, so I'm just trying to sort this out. The fact that, what's going on here? Yeah, the biggest problem with starting Johnny May is the fact he's not in the squad. Adams/Watson, we have learned that Japan cannot be written off. Yeah, look, you can't write Japan off, but I just don't really think that they've got enough. So going through the squad, who's not involved in terms of this weekend. So there's no Elliot Daly, there's no Gareth Davies, there's no Chris Harris, there's no Hogg, no Finn Russell, and no Anthony. No, who am I missing? Louis Zammit. So those are the 6 backs that are not involved. Which I think out of those backs, who will probably... I'm really hoping that Chris Harris gets a chance. I really like him. Look, I think Robbie Henchman's a really good player, but I really like Chris Harris. I think that, he's a very, very smart defender and a very intelligent player. And I think that when you've got the likes of Lakanya and potentially and Colby and stuff like that, I think that having his defensive abilities will be a massive, massive boost. In terms of the pack, who we're not going to see this weekend is Luke Cowan-Dickey, no Tom Curry, no... who else are we not seeing? No Johnny Hill, no Itoje, no Sam Simmons, and no Carl Sinclair, and no Tipuric this weekend, and no Mako Vanapola. So I mean, I think it's definitely not the strongest side that the Lions can put up, but I'm very interested to see where the English players stand and what the sort of the thinking is. It's so difficult to select the English players, given how poor they were in the Six Nations, but equally so, I mean, it's so difficult to leave our players who've been so good for a number of years. So I'm very all I'm saying is I wouldn't like to be in Warren Gatlin's position. I think he's got a very, very tough time trying to pick the squad and trying to sort of balance form versus reputation, and also who has to stick up in the big moments. Who are going to be those players when the chips are down, you can rely on, you can bring them in, and they can do a massive job for you. Kenny Cooney says yes. Jenny May, I love that. Jenny May not making the squad really surprised me. We're going to go with Jenny now for the rest of it. I think he's now Jenny May. Heracles also says, I agree, like Johnny May and Johnny Nelson. I know it's not about rugby, but what do you think of SA beating the West Indies? Shout out to the Proteas. Shout out to Keshav Maharaj with the hat trick. My boys, we're back. First test away series since 2017. Cricket fans, we're back. We're back. We're moving. We're moving. Yeah, I was very chuffed about that. And I think that even though the West Indies might not be the best Indies inside in the world, it's never easy to go on tour there. England got their asses handed to them, and the fact that we beat them is a very positive thing. Sean Felser, I do expect a 10-12 combo like he did in 2017. Yeah, I've got absolutely no idea what Gatlin's going to do and where he's going to go. As I said, I'm a big fan of going with combos. You know, whether it's people who have played before with the Lions or whether it's, you know, going sort of on country basis. As I said, I think there's a lot to be said about having a hooker and the line-out jumpers being from the same team or people who know each other. I think there's a lot to be said about the outside backs knowing each other quite well. Scrum off, fly half, obviously those sort of relationships, your centre pairings. You know, it's when you don't have a lot of time to maybe sort of gel, it's quite important that those combinations. And I think even when you're looking at those midweek games and the weekend games, stuff like that, you know, I think it's quite important that when you're rotating people, you still try and stick to combinations, and you still try and make sure that people can play with each other, so that it's not just a case of by the time you come to the first test, you know, you've got, you know, one combination and nothing else works. You know, try and get other people working with the right people and in a similar game style where they can all kind of slot in. I mean, that's always the biggest issue. You've got players there who play different styles of rugby for their club, you play different styles of rugby for their nation, and now they'll play a whole different style of rugby for the Lions. So there's so many different factors. I think that's what makes the Lions tour so much fun, is that it's players coming from very different situations and very different backgrounds, and now being thrown into a one team and told to go do it. And look, these invitational teams very rarely do well but they never really have as much time. Your World 15s and your Barbarians never win, because you just can't put the best players together and expect them to gel. Grant Swart says, how's it all? Joining a bit late. What did I miss? Yeah, not too much. We're talking a little bit about the tour and the fact that we're worried that the logistics of it might have to change if Gauteng goes to level 5. But I think that we basically said that we don't have to worry too much about the tour being called off. It just might change a little bit. And now just pretty much going through the British and Irish Lions team. Grant Swart, I'm assuming we'll see you tomorrow night for Western Province Lions. I'm, for one, not really looking forward to it, but hopefully we put up a decent fight. And Jack Masala says, what is your Lions 23 against South Africa? It's such a difficult one. I'm trying to remember what I said. So we did a fan forum the night the squad was announced. I'm trying to remember who I started. I remember saying Wyn Jones, and I remember going. Oh, I can't have jeepers. That was a long time ago. I don't know. I'm going to do a video on my starting 23. I want to do it properly though. I want to actually give it some good thought and stuff like that. But players who I'd like to see play, I think, or will obviously start for me will be. As I said, I'd like to see Chris Harris given a chance. I'd like to see. I think we'll probably see Dan Bigger at fly half, but I'd like to see Finn Russell. I'm a very big Finn Russell fan. Liam Williams is a safe bet. Anthony Watson's a very safe bet. Stuart Hogg is obviously a very safe bet. Conor Murray will be the scrum half, but no doubt about that. The loose forwards will be interesting. I mean, you got Curry, Faletau, Hamish Watson. You know, I think you can put Tad Byrne into the second row with Alan Wyn Jones to solve that issue. You also Courtney Laws, Sam Simmons. You know, where does he fit in? So I'll do a proper video about the Lions 23 and stuff like that, because I want to be able to just sort of chuck one together, because I know I'm going to do it and then go back and forth and think maybe I want to put this person in. So I'll do a proper video about that a bit closer to the time. But we're going to have people, we're going to have more people on the show about it. You know, we're going to have somebody who's based in Ireland now, covers a lot of Irish rugby and stuff like that on the show as well. We're going to have Sean Hurson, who was on Friday doing the live watch along. We'll obviously have Lecanio, who we've been on quite a long time. So we've got a lot of fan forums planned, so we can get everybody's sort of opinion. Everybody's going to have their chance to submit their Lions 23. And hopefully, I'm hoping this weekend we're going to be trying to debut something, which is going to be quite cool. I'll confirm it in the next couple of days whether we're going to have it online. But we want to try and look at how we can do player ratings over the weekend. We've got quite a nice little format that we want to try out maybe on Saturday. But we'll give confirmation for that. Grant says, of course I'll be here for the Province game. Oh yeah, I just don't think it's going to go well. I think we're in a bit of a disaster. Apart from that, quite interesting. I don't know if anybody saw there was a French article about Cheslin Colby, and he's actually been slammed quite a bit by the French lately. Just thinking about the Springbok stuff like that. Any other news? But basically, they were saying in the last couple of games, Cheslin Colby has been very much off the pace and quite disappointing. So now, a couple of people are now worried that is he going to be ready, and is it a bad patch of form, stuff like that, which I think is being a little bit reactionary. But what has been confirmed is that Reinhard Alstad and Cheslin Colby will likely miss the Georgia test, which means that I don't think we have to worry about replacing Alstad, because I don't think he makes the final 23. But I think now is sort of the question is who comes in at wing. And I don't know why it's a debate, because I don't know. I mean, does anybody besides Spoo and Corsi come into that spot? I mean, when Spoo and Corsi has played for the Springboks, I mean, Shame, I feel so sorry for him. He's somebody that whenever he plays for the Springboks, he scores tries. He does the job. But, you can't drop Mapimpi and you can't drop Cheslin Colby. There's just too many. And that's why some people are saying maybe move Cheslin Colby to full back and have Colby and Corsi and Mapimpi. But, Billy LaRue is such an important part of such a part of the game plan and stuff like that. Grant Swart saying, I watched the last 2 game and Colby looked out of sorts. Yeah, he's given a 3 out of 10 by the publication that I read. So they also didn't really enjoy that performance. But you know what they say, form is temporary and class is permanent, and I think he's a world class player. So I imagine he'll bounce back. I'm gonna keep an eye on the final this weekend on Friday. As Sean O'Farrell says, they are in the top 14 finals, so yeah, they'll come back in after it. Yeah, so they're apparently they're getting their last vaccination on Sunday, Alstad and Colby, and so they'll be flying out either Sunday night or Monday. So they'll only be with the Boks earliest Monday, latest Tuesday or Wednesday. So there's no chance they're going to be able to join the team Tuesday or Wednesday and be ready to play on Friday. I mean, by that stage, the teams are really sort of tapering off and you can't even gauge where they are. Vito says, of course, he's still injured. I'd say they must let Spec Magic play. Yeah, I'd really like to see him play. I think if there's going to be a game to release him, it must be that game. I think your wings he will definitely play in the SAA side. I've got no doubt about that. I think that SAA side will be a backline of Fassi, Spec Magic, Similane, France Stain probably at inside. Alton Yankees at flower half. I think it's going to be quite a good SAA side, and I'm keen to see a lot of players get an opportunity there. But I think for the Georgia series, I think the problem is that we can't really afford to experiment. I mean, I think the only players who might be sort of getting caps or opportunities is maybe one of the Dupree brothers. A lot of chat about there. We have to sort of see who's going to take over for Dwayne. We've got to give the locks a chance and see how the locks are doing. But after that, I don't think we're going to see too many changes from the norm for that Georgia series. I think we might see Dan Creel Jesse Creel starting at outside centre in that Georgia test, but I don't think there's going to be too many surprises. Front row will be Kitsoff, Markswell, Mbanambi, and Frans Malherbe. I'd like to see Trevor start, actually. I'd like to see Trevor get a start, but we'll talk more about that next week. But yeah, I mean, for a look ahead for the rest of the week, we'll be live again on Thursday doing this show. Run a bit over, we usually try and sort of aim for half an hour, so we'll wrap it up in a little bit. So we'll be live again on Thursday doing a live show 8:30 as usual. Tomorrow we're going to be live twice for the SA Under 20 game at 3 o'clock, as well as the Lions versus Western Province game at 7. We will be live on Friday night for who's playing on Friday night? I'm pretty sure it's the Sharks. And we will be live on Saturday for hopefully the Currie Cup and the British and Irish Lions. We will definitely be live for the British and Irish Lions. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. The Currie Cup game, and if I can't do it, I'm not sure if there's anybody who's available to do it. Maybe get Sean or somebody to jump on that. So that's sort of the rugby to look forward to. Lots of rugby. I mean, there's pretty much rugby every day bar Thursday. I mean, there's the top 14 final this weekend, the Premiership final as well. Obviously, yeah. So there's rugby all over the place, which would be really, really cool. But yeah, last few comments before we sort of wrap up. I think Trevor will get a start against Georgia. I hope so. I'm a massive Trevor fan. He's looking good whenever he plays. Any ideas how many Springboks are still injured? No word yet on Arceus Neyman and Damien Delindi and whether they've travelled. I'm assuming they haven't because we haven't heard that they have. So I think that's a big doubt. So, we could be looking at an inside centre issue. Locks, no confirmation that Lua Diaga is hundreds. Supposed to be doing quite well. Dwayne Vermeulen, there's been no updates, so he's obviously one of the major injuries. Apart from that, don't think there's any other major injuries apart from that. Trying to think of I haven't really mentioned anything in the press conferences. We haven't had any injury advisories from the box camp. So nothing new there. It's mainly the lock issue. Damien Delendi, Dwayne Vermeulen. Spoon Corsi's always seems to be nursing something, but hopefully he's all hundreds. Yeah, so we'll kind of wrap it up there on the 45 minutes mark. So Guido is saying yes was because Malhoba is not that much of a good scrummager now. Yeah, I think I'd also like to see Trevor start. So we'll wrap it up there. Please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. You can become a part of the members club as well. Links over there in the pinned comment. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you every tomorrow at 3 o'clock for SA Under-20s versus Argentina. Always nice to see the young guns. And we'll also be live for Lions versus Western Province tomorrow night. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you guys all soon. Have a fantastic week, and please do keep safe.